My sister was so sure I'd hand over my custom-renovated lake house to her that she actually gave up her lease and booked clients for a spiritual retreat on my property behind my back while I was away on a business trip. Her face when she realized she'd either be sleeping on the damp grass or getting escorted away in handcuffs by the county sheriff was absolutely priceless. To give you some context, I am Marcus, 29M, and I work as a creative director for a high-end digital design agency. My daily life in the city is an absolute pressure cooker. Because my daily life in the city is an absolute pressure cooker, I wanted a sanctuary, a place where I could completely unplug, create my digital art, and decompress. 3 years ago, after saving every single bonus and sacrificing my social life, I bought a property 2 hours outside the city. It was a semi-abandoned, dilapidated lake house on a secluded 2-acre lot right on the water. For 3 long years, I poured my soul, my weekends, and an ungodly amount of money into restoring this place. I did a massive portion of the labor with my own 2 hands, custom building an outdoor kitchen, expanding the lakeside dock, and adding an outdoor cedar sauna. I even splurged on a detached, modern studio made entirely of smart glass right at the edge of the woods. This lake house isn't just real estate to me, it is my literal sanctuary and my ultimate safe space. Enter my older sister, Chloe, 33F. Chloe is the golden child of our family, though she prefers the title spiritual guide and holistic wellness coach. She is a textbook influencer, boasting around 40,000 followers on Instagram and TikTok, where she regularly posts about mindfulness, manifestation, and respecting cosmic boundaries. Ironically, Chloe has never respected a single boundary in her entire life. She hasn't held a stable job in over 6 years. Every single time she runs out of money or gets evicted from an apartment she can't afford, our parents step in to quietly pay her debts and bail her out. To them, she is a fragile artistic soul. To me, she is a deeply entitled, manipulative parasite who uses spiritual buzzwords to justify her absolute lack of accountability. Chloe recently got engaged to her fiancé, David, 30M, a sweet, soft-spoken IT engineer. He's a genuinely nice guy, but he's completely under Chloe's spell. Ever since they got engaged, Chloe suddenly started showing an unprecedented interest in my life, texting out of the blue to ask how the lake house was coming along. I was foolish enough to think she was trying to genuinely connect with me. In retrospect, I should have realized it was a tactical reconnaissance mission. Last Saturday, Chloe and David drove out under the guise of bringing me lunch. We were sitting on my back deck when she dropped the bomb with the most serene, unbothered smile. "So, Marcus," she began, placing her matcha latte on my custom teak table without a coaster. "David and I have been doing some deep manifestation work about our future, and we've made a major decision about the lake house for the upcoming summer season." I was genuinely confused. The lake house? What do you mean? Chloe gestured gracefully toward the horizon and my glass studio, as if she already owned the ecosphere. "Well, look at this place. It's absolutely dripping with high vibrational energy. It's honestly a spiritual crime for just one single guy to hoard all this healing space to himself. So we've decided to launch my flagship project here, the Summer of the Ascended Goddess, a 3-month immersive luxury wellness and yoga retreat." I stared at her, completely dumbfounded, waiting for her to burst out laughing and tell me it was a joke. The punchline never came. David looked down at his lap, deeply uncomfortable, while Chloe just kept smiling her bright, vacant influencer smile. "Are you completely out of your mind?" I asked, setting my sandwich down. "Chloe, you're talking about my private home. This isn't a commercial venue, it's where I live and work." Chloe's expression immediately shifted. Her eyes narrowed and she adopted her enlightened guru explaining reality to a peasant voice. "Marcus, don't let your ego block your spiritual growth. Think about it logically and selfishly for once. You are one single man in a 4-bedroom lake house. You're barely even here during the week. This space has the capacity to heal dozens of women. It makes 0 sense for you to keep it all to yourself when it could be funding my business and building our family's legacy." "And where exactly am I supposed to go during these 3 months while your goddesses are running around my property?" I asked, my voice dangerously flat. Oh, we thought about that. You can easily clear out the old boathouse by the dock and set up a cot there. It's so rustic and charming. As an artist, you should appreciate the raw, minimalist connection to nature. It'll give you so much inspiration. Besides, we aren't asking for a handout. We are family. We are willing to give you a very generous 5% of the net profits from the retreat to help you cover the utility bills. 5% of the net profits of a business that doesn't even exist yet? I let out a harsh laugh. The answer is no, Chloe. Absolutely, unconditionally no. Get your hands off my property and don't ever mention this ridiculous idea to me again. Chloe slammed her hand onto the table, her Zen persona instantly evaporating. Why are you always so incredibly selfish, Marcus? Do you have any idea how toxic your masculinity is being right now? David and I are trying to build a future, to start a family, and to bring light into the world. Meanwhile, you're sitting here hoarding wealth and square footage like a capitalist dragon. Family is supposed to elevate family. Family elevates family? I stood up, towering over her. I bought this land with my own money. I spent 3 years breaking my back, bleeding, and sweating to build this house, while you were floating around on David's paycheck. If you want a wellness resort, go buy a plot of dirt and build one yourself. Chloe stormed off the deck, dragging a deeply apologetic-looking David behind her, and slammed my front door so hard the glass panes rattled. I watched their car speed down my gravel driveway, thinking that would be the end of her absurd delusion. Boy, was I wrong.
Localized family war. I seriously underestimated how deep the enabling runs in my family and just how fast the golden child can mobilize her troops. The morning after Chloe stormed out of my lake house, my phone started buzzing at 6 a.m. It was my mother. She didn't sound angry. Instead, she used that heavy, weaponized disappointment that only a mother can pull off. "Marcus," she sighed, her voice practically dripping with grief. "Chloe called me last night in absolute hysterics. She said you screamed at her, called her a failure, and threw her out into the cold. I have to say, I'm deeply shocked by your attitude." "Mom," I said, rubbing my eyes, "did she happen to mention that she tried to force me into an uninsulated boathouse for the entire summer so she could run a commercial business out of my private home?" "She didn't demand, Marcus. She proposed an arrangement," my mother snapped, her gentle tone vanishing. "She wants to share the abundance. There's a massive difference. Frankly, it would do your character some good to learn how to share. You've been living alone in that big house for too long. You're becoming rigid and deeply selfish. Chloe is trying to build a career and start a life with David. This is a crucial, beautiful time for her. The least you could do as her younger brother is accommodate her feelings." Later that afternoon, a text from my dad popped up. "Your mother is weeping in the living room. Your stubbornness is tearing the family apart, Marcus. Just sit down with your sister and find a compromise. Don't be unreasonable." Then came the passive-aggressive psychological warfare. Chloe went straight to social media. She posted a TikTok video talking about cutting out toxic family members who hoard resources and protecting your peace from low vibrational energy. She posted an Instagram story with a black background and white text. "When your own flesh and blood chooses material greed over your happiness, you realize who your real soul family is." Her followers, who don't know a single detail of the real story, flooded her comments calling me a monster, a terrible brother, and an entitled tech bro who deserved to lose everything. By Wednesday, the family phone tree was in full effect. I heard from 3 aunts, 2 uncles, and my grandmother. Every single message followed the exact same script. "Family helps family. Chloe is your sister. You have more than you need. Why are you being so vindictive?" What drives me completely insane is that Chloe has other options. David makes a great living as an engineer. They could easily lease a commercial space, a rustic barn, or an actual campground for her retreat. But they don't want to do that because those options require real capital, insurance, and financial risk. Chloe wanted my lake house because it was gorgeous, custom renovated, and entirely free for her. She expected me to completely subsidize her lifestyle at the expense of my own privacy. Last Sunday, Chloe texted me a classic non-apology. "I'm sorry our cosmic energies clashed last weekend. I was just emotional because I care so deeply about my purpose. David and I want to come over this afternoon to clear the air and bring you some vegan pastries. Let's start fresh." Against my better judgment, because I am an idiot who wanted to believe my family wasn't completely unhinged, I told them they could come by. They showed up at 2 p.m. with Starbucks and apologetic smiles. Chloe hugged me tightly, smelling strongly of sage and patchouli, and acted as if our explosive argument on the deck had never happened. We sat down in my living room, drank coffee, and for about 10 minutes I actually felt a wave of relief. I genuinely thought we were having a normal sibling breakthrough. Then she dropped the act. "So, Marcus," she said brightly, setting her cup down, "now that we've all had time to ground ourselves, David and I have put together a concrete financial breakdown to show you how smoothly this summer is going to run for everyone." My stomach dropped into a bottomless pit of cold dread. "Chloe, stop right there. What did I tell you last week? The answer is no. There is no breakdown to look at." "Oh, you're just reacting from a place of fear, Marcus." She waved her hand dismissively. "David, show him what we put together." David, looking utterly mortified and completely refusing to meet my eyes, pulled out his iPad. They had created a literal business proposal for my private residence. They listed their current townhouse rent, a proposed rent to me of $400 per month for June, July, and August, and a column labeled Intangible Benefits to Marcus. These benefits included built-in high-vibrational social circle, daily organic plant-based meals provided by the retreat chef, and free spiritual alignment sessions valued at $500 per hour. "See," she beamed proudly, clacking her long acrylic nails against the glass coffee table, "everyone wins. You get to be part of something meaningful, and your home gets blessed by the collective energy of 15 awakened women. How do I win by paying a $3,500 monthly mortgage on a house I built just to live in a shack with spiders while you pay me $400 to let a dozen strangers trash my custom floors?" I demanded, my voice rising. "You are completely blinding yourself to the spiritual intangibles," she shouted, her calm demeanor fracturing instantly. "It's about family connection. It's about helping your sister." Before I could even respond, she stood up, reached into her massive linen tote bag, and pulled out a heavy-duty tape measure. "Well, let's just see if the copper healing pyramids will even fit in the glass studio before you completely reject the universe's plan," she said, marching straight towards my detached glass studio. I followed her in absolute disbelief. She burst into my studio space, where my expensive digital drawing monitors, camera gear, and private art collection were housed, and began aggressively pulling the tape measure across the walls. "Okay, David, write this down," she barked, dismantling Marcus's desk setup and moving his monitor rigs into the main house garage to make room for the meditation altars. "And these custom shelves with the Japanese art pieces have got to go. They have way too much masculine energy. We'll store them in the tool shed." She was literally laying her hands on my custom-built shelving, talking about tearing down my hard work, when something inside my brain snapped completely. "Get the hell out of my studio," I whispered, my voice shaking with raw rage. Chloe froze, turning around with a patronizing laugh. "Oh, Marcus, don't be so dramatic. We're just visualizing." I said, "Get the hell out of my house and off my property now," I roared, stepping directly into her space. David jumped back, instantly dropping his iPad onto a yoga mat. He grabbed Chloe's arm. "Chloe, come on, let's go." He said, "No, we need to leave right now." But Chloe doubled down, her face contorting into an ugly mask of pure entitlement. "This is exactly your problem, Marcus. You are so deeply sick with greed. You can't even have a rational, mature discussion without flying off the handle like a psycho. How are we supposed to make plans if you won't even let me—" "There are no plans. This is my home. You don't live here and you will never live here. Get out." I practically herded them across the grass towards their car. Chloe was screaming at the top of her lungs about my anger issues and how I was ruining her life's work, while David kept pulling her away, looking absolutely terrified that I was going to call the cops. The last thing she shouted as they drove away was, "I'm telling Mom and Dad about this." 20 minutes later, my phone completely exploded with angry calls and texts from my parents and aunts. It was the exact nightmare all over again. I've had enough. I went ahead and changed every single digital lock code on my property, informed my private security company that absolutely no one is allowed past the gate without my express permission, and I am seriously considering going completely non-contact. This can't be normal. It just can't be.
Yes. Chloe was giving me the silent treatment, which honestly felt like a gift from the universe.
I thought that maybe, just maybe, changing my security codes had finally sent a clear message. Then came the ambush. My mother called me last Thursday, her voice completely back to its sweet, nurturing tone. "Marcus, sweetie, I hate this tension between my children. Your father misses you terribly. Let's just drop the Lakehouse talk completely. No business talk, I promise. Just come over for a quiet Sunday dinner. Let's just be a family." I felt a massive wave of guilt, so I agreed. That was my first mistake. The moment I walked into my childhood home, the heavy air told me I'd walked straight into a trap. There was no roast chicken on the table. Instead, the dining room looked like a corporate boardroom. Chloe and David were sitting on one side with their laptops open, and my parents sat at the head of the table with thick, printed documents. "Sit down, Marcus," my dad said in his formal financial advisor voice. "We need to have a family meeting about the Lakehouse spatial crisis." "There is no crisis," I said, but I sat down out of sheer shock. Mom chimed in immediately. "Marcus, we've let this stubbornness go on too long. Family means compromise. Chloe has prepared a professional presentation to help us find a solution." Chloe tapped her spacebar, and a projector screen flared to life against the dining room wall. The title slide read, "Optimal Spatial Resource Allocation and Wellness Synergy for the Mitchell Family Ecosystem." I sat there in stunned silence as my sister unironically pitched a hostile takeover of my property. Slide 1 showed a bar graph arguing that my occupancy of a 4-bedroom lake house was a 92% underutilization of spatial assets. Slide 2 was a market analysis showing how much money she and David were wasting on commercial rentals, framing my refusal as a direct theft from her future. Slide 3 was a literal floor plan of my home that she had secretly mapped out. The main house and my glass studio were highlighted in bright purple and labeled Chloe's Wellness Core. A tiny, uninsulated square at the swampy edge of the water was highlighted in gray and labeled Marcus's Minimalist Creative Quarters, the Boathouse. When she finished, she looked at me expectantly. "No," I said, keeping my voice dead level. "No to every single pixel on that screen, forever." "You didn't even look at the data," Chloe shouted, her professional facade instantly evaporating. That was when David, looking like he wanted to pass out from embarrassment, finally spoke up. "Marcus, we already gave official notice on our townhouse lease. Our landlord already rented it out for June." The room went completely dead silent. I stared at him, then at my sister. "What did you do?" Chloe rushed to explain, her voice climbing into hysterics. "I knew you'd come around once you saw the undeniable logic. Our lease was month to month, and we couldn't afford to waste an entire month's rent when we were scheduled to move in here anyway. Our boxes are already packed." "You are not moving a single box into my home," I said, standing up. "Where are we supposed to go?" Chloe shrieked, the tears flowing instantly. "Our lease ends in 3 weeks. We're going to be homeless because of your greed." "That sounds like a you problem that you created out of your own sheer arrogance," I shot back. "You gambled your housing in a delusion." "Marcus," my mother roared, slamming her hands on the table. "Extortion and delusion are disgusting words to use against your sister. She's trying to share." My dad finally showed a flicker of a backbone, turning to Chloe. "Chloe, did you truly terminate your lease before securing Marcus's written signature?" Chloe immediately threw herself into our mother's arms, wailing. "I thought my family would support me. He's choosing square footage over my literal survival." "I am leaving," I said, grabbing my truck keys. "Chloe, you have 3 weeks to find a place. If I catch you, David, or anyone else on my land without permission, I am calling the county sheriff and pressing charges for criminal trespass. I don't care about DNA." "You'd arrest your own sister?" my mother gasped. "If she breaks into my house, yes." I walked out to the sound of Chloe's muffled wails. Since that night, my life has been a living hell. I blocked her and my mom, but Chloe keeps calling from burner numbers, alternating between spiritual blessings and screaming threats.
Yesterday, a cousin told me Chloe started a GoFundMe titled Emergency Housing Fund for Evicted Holistic Educator, claiming a wealthy, aggressive relative violently threw her out of promised housing. It has raised $73. Then a local rural landlord called me for a rental reference. Chloe had listed my Lakehouse as her previous primary residence and me as her landlord. I told the guy the absolute truth. She has never lived here, she has never paid a dime, and she is trying to commit fraud. He hung up immediately. But the absolute wild card happened last night. David reached out privately from a brand new email address, begging to meet for a quiet coffee completely away from Chloe. When I met him at the diner, he looked like a hollowed-out ghost. "Marcus, man, I am so incredibly sorry. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know she was lying to me." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" David buried his face in his hands. "Chloe told me 3 months ago that you had fully agreed to the summer retreat. She showed me cropped, edited screenshots of text messages from you where your casual 'we'll see' responses were framed as official green lights. I trusted her. That's why I agreed to give up the townhouse. I only found out the truth at that horrific dinner when I saw the look of genuine confusion on your face." I sat back stunned by the sheer level of calculation. She had systematically lied to her own fiancé to force my hand through a manufactured crisis. "Why are you still with her, David?" I stared into his black coffee for a long, painful moment. "The invitations are sent. Deposits are paid. I thought maybe she was just stressed about her career and she'd calm down once we had a stable place." "You can't fix a black hole, man," I told him gently, sliding him the number of a solid trauma therapist. As of today, Chloe and David are crashing on an air mattress at an influencer friend's place. My mom still calls my work phone daily, always ending with, "I hope your square footage keeps you warm at night, Marcus." It does. I'm sleeping perfectly fine in my own bed, in the house I built. They played stupid games, and they are about to win the ultimate prize. Stay tuned.
I was an idiot. 2 weeks ago, I had to fly out to Vancouver for a 5-day corporate design conference. It was a massive deal for my career, so despite the lingering paranoia, I had to go. Before heading to the airport, I double-checked my locks, left explicit instructions with my private security patrol that absolutely no visitors were allowed past the gate, and activated my security cameras. The conference went well, but the entire time I was in Canada, I had this sinking feeling in my chest. I landed back in the States on Friday night and drove straight to the Lakehouse, arriving around midnight. The moment my headlights hit the gravel driveway, my blood ran cold. There were 2 unfamiliar cars parked near my garage. I jumped out of my truck, adrenaline dumping into my system, and walked up to the front door. My keypad code still worked, but the second I stepped inside, the smell hit me. The crisp, clean scent of cedar and espresso was completely gone, replaced by an overwhelming, suffocating cloud of cheap sage and lavender incense. I marched straight into my bedroom suite, threw open the door, and completely froze. I think I actually stopped breathing. My sanctuary had been entirely, violently dismantled. My heavy teak bed frame had been dragged across the room, leaving deep, horrific, gouged white scars all over my antique white oak floors. My custom leather reading chair was entirely gone. In its place stood a gaudy white and gold vanity table littered with makeup brushes and essential oils. My minimalist artwork had been ripped off the walls and replaced with cheap, plastic-framed cursive quotes like "Goddess energy only" and "Manifest your destiny." And sitting right on my nightstand was a large framed engagement photo of Chloe and David. Fuming, I walked into my walk-in closet. Someone had taken a power drill to my custom wood cabinetry, splintering the finish to install cheap, flimsy plastic rods. My entire wardrobe had been violently crushed into a tiny corner. The rest of the space was overflowing with Chloe's linen dresses, sun hats, and shoes, all meticulously organized with little typed labels. On the kitchen counter lay a laminated document
co-living harmonic agreement and guidelines, complete with chore wheels and signature lines for David, Chloe, and me. I didn't yell, I didn't text anyone. I became completely, terrifyingly calm. I pulled out my phone, called 911, and reported a felony breaking and entering in progress. While waiting for the deputies, I opened my laptop to check my hidden security camera. I have a primary cloud system that Chloe knows about, but I also have a hardwired invisible pinhole camera hidden inside a smoke detector. I pulled up Tuesday's footage. The video showed my mother pulling up to my security gate. When the digital codes didn't work, she reached into her purse and pulled out a physical key. Years ago, I had given her a spare key strictly for life-or-death medical emergencies. She had gone to a hardware store and illegally made duplicates. The video showed her letting in Chloe, 2 of her influencer friends, and a local handyman. They spent days actively moving boxes into my house. Chloe was literally strutting around my bedroom, gesturing like an HGTV host, mocking my depressing masculine energy and planning where to put her wedding photos. Within 20 minutes, 2 county sheriff patrol cars pulled up with their lights flashing. I laid out the documentation on the kitchen counter, my sole property deed, the crystal clear footage of my mother using the unauthorized key, and a copy of the formal cease and desist letter my attorney had sent them via certified mail weeks prior. The lead deputy looked at the screen, then at my floors. "Sir, this isn't a civil family dispute. This is felony burglary and property destruction." Just as the deputies were taking my statement, headlights flashed outside. My mother had seen the gate open on her primary security app and alerted Chloe. They burst through the front door, ready to scream at me, but stopped dead when they saw 2 armed, uniformed officers. Chloe instantly tried to force her serene guru smile. "Officers, hello. There seems to be a terrible misunderstanding. This is just a surprise family house makeover. We have a verbal agreement." "She is lying," I said flatly. "They broke in while I was out of the country." "It's not breaking in if you have a key," my mother shrieked, waving her copy in the deputy's face. "I am his mother. This is a private family matter." The deputy didn't blink. "Ma'am, using an emergency key to occupy a private residence without the owner's permission is breaking and entering. Step back right now." I looked at the officers. "I want to press charges against both of them." The deputies turned to Chloe and my mother. "You have exactly 30 minutes to remove every single item you brought into this house, or you will be escorted to the county jail in zip ties." Chloe collapsed on my ruined floor, weeping and screaming that I was a reptilian monster. My mother tried to physically push a deputy to stop him from supervising the move. But David did something extraordinary. He didn't look at Chloe, he didn't comfort her. He silently walked into my bedroom, picked up the vanity table, and carried it out to his trunk. He grabbed their engagement photo, threw it directly into a plastic trash bag, and silently began moving her boxes out with dead eyes. By 2 a.m., my house was empty of their garbage. The deputies issued a criminal trespass citation to my sister and formally arrested my mother for felony trespass and resisting an officer. As they led my mother down the driveway, she screamed that I was no longer her son. The fallout was immediate and nuclear. My phone completely melted with death threats from extended relatives, and my grandmother left a voicemail officially writing me out of her will. But I don't care. The locks are changed, the law is involved, and the golden child has finally faced the ultimate reality check.
It has been 3 months since the arrest, and I am finally wrapping up this chapter of my life. The legal system didn't play games. Chloe received a court-ordered restraining order, meaning any step onto my turf puts her in a cell. My mother took a plea deal for criminal trespass, landing her 150 hours of community service and 2 years of strict probation. The family is completely fractured. Half of them treat me like a monster, while my dad recently sent a long email admitting they enabled Chloe for decades just to avoid her tantrums. I told him I need a long, indefinite block of absolute space before even considering a reunion. But the best part, the Lakehouse sold yesterday. I put it on the market because despite restoring the white oak floors, the memory of that violation stained the house. I made a massive 40% profit and bought an ultra-secure industrial loft penthouse downtown in a different city, complete with a 24-hour doorman and biometric elevator access. My family doesn't have the address or my new number. And as for David, we actually became close friends through this mess. He canceled the wedding, dumped Chloe, and pulled his deposits. He is in therapy and currently dating a normal data analyst who actually expects to pay for her own living space.